This is Hawk Robinson with RPG Research, and you are listening to Rollmongers.
And for radio...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Dice Before Dishonor. The Palace. The Palace in Opera. Romeo Casti, rousing you from your flashbacks, Sir Bartholomew, a middle-aged man sporting a tonsure-style haircut, the classic friar tuck haircut, as it were, the bald spot on the top, shaving one's scalp to show devotion.
Yeah.
Approaches me and says, approaches you, gets your attention and says, Excuse me, young man.
What is it?
You wouldn't happen to be Bartholomew Donaldagan, now would you?
And if I am?
Well, I might have a bone to pick with you. It seems a man of your description, and particular, shall we say, upbringing, and several cohorts, ransacked my church lately. Not something I could normally overlook. Father Vilkis says, that Casti fellow over there, pointing out Romeo, schmoozing, is directly responsible. But I couldn't help to notice that in his description happened to be, well, you. But I never thought it to be a Donaldagan, considering previous devotion. Before I sort of stick a pin in El Casti's ever-inflating ego he seems to be spreading around the room, I'd like to hear your side of the story. Like, as far as pulling rank goes, a father of a church does outrank a young nobleman.
Okay.
So he's asking you a direct question. This guy is your superior. Where's my answer? And for you, it's like, I kind of know it's you. So, young man, I know your dad. Let's you tell me your side of the story.
Don't tell Dad. I totally did it without him knowing. I swear to God, just don't tell him. Just let us have it for another 24 hours. I'll put it back where it belongs.
We just need it for the day to instate his nobility. Then you can have it back. You'll just slip it back in.
Just don't tell my dad. He does so many mean things. So many mean things.
Oh.
You don't know.
Matt and I are the only ones who can laugh out loud. Everyone else is literally like either just hung their head or fallen out of their chair. He's stammering. Oh, all right, son, calm down. This is, all eyes are upon you, man. Straighten yourself up, lad. And no need to go to pieces. Is that a bluff check? Are you fucking with me, boy? Are you making a mockery out of my request, lad? You're a Donaldagan. Straighten yourself up.
A bluff of 11?
Don't be pawning your misdeeds off on family and those you work for. Take responsibility, right or wrong. That's the path. The righteous path of Eredin. When he was a mortal, he stood up for what he did, even his wrong choices. Don't let me see the fall. I'll deal with the man who hired you, he says, shaking his head in disgust. Don't let me see it fall to pieces, especially not here, not again.
You don't know.
It's gonna haunt my dreams. Well, you got him to leave. All right.
As long as everyone gets their giggles, it's worth it.
No, that's good. Yeah. Unexpected. That's good. I have to admit, that was really good, because Bartholomew, you just seem to be hammering the dry. I was waiting for something. It's got to be some kind of bluff for sympathy, or, even if it's the truth.
You got to know how to play the nobles. You got to know how to play them.
Diplomacy. Okay, there he is.
It's the new diplomacy.
Appeal to emotion has always been a part of diplomacy and rhetoric.
Millennial diplomacy. My dad.
I beg you.
Joke of the Night award goes to Ryan. Oh, that's just genius.
Yes.
Bottle cap for those in the know. We got to come up with something. All right. So, Leon, a lot of people are watching you because of your garb and whispering about you, but no one's really approached you. Okay? However, you do notice a young man, bureaucrat, carrying like scrolls and folders and such. And he's moving about the room. He's doing his job, waiting in line to see important people, whatever. But like you, he's not joining in. He's sort of seeing and hearing the scoffing and what's going on. And, he sees the gossip and seems to scoff at it. Looks very annoyed.
Sounds like there's at least someone I can talk to while waiting for my damn drink.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Not sure what got into Winston. He hasn't returned.
Well, I had to go back to the kitchen to get a whole other pitcher because,
Well, this is all happening at the same time. So even though I'm going around the room scene to scene, it's technically happening simultaneously. So Leon, you want to make your way over to this young man?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Opposite side of the room from Winston, creeping along the wall, just coming back.
I approach the young man. At this point, making myself completely known that I'm walking towards him, and I stand in front of him. A short little bow.
He nods and introduces himself. Meander Solomon, stating his last name first and his first name last, as is the tradition in your country.
Menander.
And then sort of does his own version of your bow. Quickly, but not as deeply, stiffly.
That would be Menander-san. Impressive to meet you. I wonder, you don't necessarily seem to be as partaking of these festivities as many around here are.
I'm here because I have to be. Can't say I enjoy these functions. Takes me away from my work. Now I have to bring my work here, quite literally. And he's fumbling with all of his, scrolls as if he was carrying a bundle on his arm and having the top one open and scribbling on it, desperately trying to continue his work, even though he has to stand here and wait.
Might I assist you?
No, I'm fine. He says snively. Thank you.
I do wonder, what exactly is the work? If you don't mind my pry.
I am part of the bureaucracy, of course. Overworked and underpaid, of course.
Aren't we all?
Isn't it obvious? When entering one's country, you should maybe learn a little something about the locals.
Oh, I certainly did.
Yeah.
I am myself one of those overworked and underpaid individuals. It is certainly difficult to fit in around this particular crowd, but...
He opens his arms, showing the front of his robe, which has the buttons and trim denoting his station as a silver servant, as it were. But his question to you, showing his uniform, is you're a Taladian bureaucrat, are you? I highly doubt that.
No, not a bureaucrat. I am one of the lucky few to be cast aside and thus forced to work as significantly harder to do significantly less.
I see. Well, best of luck with that. I'll be the first to admit that our government is, he kind of lowers his voice, somewhat dysfunctional, but some of us have to prop it up, I suppose. If you'll excuse me, and he just kind of he doesn't know where to go, so he just kind of turns sideways and goes back to his scribbling.
Of course. I do find it strange. You do seem quite distracted and busy, but at the same time, I've noticed of anyone here, you seem the most interested in the conversations around you. Is there anything you're looking for?
Well, even a bureaucrat knows that information is key, especially those that haven't been paid for at least 6 months. I was just curious. He looks over at Romeo, you notice? And he says, if anyone else has been, shall we say, stretched over a barrel by that man.
Anyone else?
You do realize that Romeo got here ahead of you, and you guys kind of came in second, and you weren't exactly announced as his dudes, because you guys just had a quiet conversation with the guards at the door. No one's officially announced who you guys are, so he doesn't seem to know that you're with Romeo, or if he missed it because he was distracted.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, I happen to be one of those else. My companions and I were sent on quite the interesting adventures by Romeo in order to bring in the evidence that would be leading to his reason to be here.
You work for the great Romeo Alcasti.
I work for Romeo Alcasti.
Soon to be great, I understand, if he has his way.
We shall see.
Then I suppose I'll never get my money out of it.
Oh? That does remind me. He does owe us some money as well.
Doesn't surprise me.
Why is that?
If I'm to understand this correctly, you and the rest of that lot that came in behind him all work for Romeo?
Yes, we were hired by Romeo to complete multiple tasks. We don't necessarily answer to him. We were hired.
Maybe you can cover his expense to me. Leans in. I have a particular interesting piece of information that I'm willing to whisper to you, I suppose, for the right price. If clothes make the man, secrets definitely can destroy him.
Do you mind if I sat?
Please.
He sits on the opposite side of the couch.
So long as you don't sit on your purse.
All money I have is... I kind of make a show of turning my belt a little bit so that there is a spot that's conspicuously empty where a sword would be, but behind that there's like a pouch. So I kind of turn that. Is there a particular value to this information?
Well, let's just say that I know a little something and can back it up. He looks kind of like left and right. For a mere, shall we say, covering my losses, 20 Taldorian crowns? I'd be willing to share a little secret about our future lord or Casti. Something worth to you far more if he actually does become a lord. If you see where I'm going with this.
Well...
I mean, the DM is practically gift wrapping.
It is certainly within my need to maintain my honor. If there is more to be learned, he reaches into his coin pouch and starts counting out some coins. The information would be helpful. Passes over.
Is it honorable to pay off a guy to get dirt on somebody?
It's honorable to make sure that you are working for someone honorable.
I must be sure the man that I am propping up is honorable at any cost, and then count a coin. You know what I mean? Because it sounded like I'm going to be honorable, nudge, wink, 20, 40, 50, 60. It's like, that doesn't sound honorable.
If I am working for someone who is dishonorable, I am bringing dishonor to myself.
20 gold pieces is 20 gold pieces.
But there will be no collusion. Just want to make that clear. No collusion.
The price of honor cannot be counted in gold. Takes out the 20 gold pieces that he asked for.
He pockets the money, looks around to see if anyone's taking notice of you guys talking, leans in, and begins revealing quite a long history of Romeo taking bribes, and notes that Romeo has actually funded a recent endeavor, which is most likely yours, with ill-gotten gold, as it were. I admit, finishing off, that the Taldorian government is dysfunctional at best, but still, Romeo is barely given 1 month's pay for 6 months of my work.
As much as it pains me to admit, some would argue that the charging for this information is in fact accepting a bribe as well.
Solomon winces slightly at that and says, "Unlike Romeo, I don't accept the tainted coin of people who engage in unsavory practices. I provide information to generous," kind of indicating you with one hand, "and upstanding people," he says as he rises up himself, turning to you over his shoulder and stating, "Lastly, a way of showing my gratitude." Gathers the scrolls and walks away.
Or acknowledging the departure of Menander, gets up and starts walking. Where is Winston?
Can I have knowledge local, please?
Okay.
Knowledge nobility.
Try the other one. Knowledge nobility. 16.
Sorry.
Oh, that's a good roll.
On your way to Winston, looking for your refreshment, you spot that Lord Gildervarth has been roped into a conversation with an interesting-looking, greenish, silvery-skinned, white-haired youth, and the two of them are engaged in conversation with a familiar lady with a 16 knowledge nobility that you just rolled. That is Lady Morelia, rumored to be the leader of the Pathfinder Society faction under Taldor's banner, the Sovereign Court, whose actual symbol is a phoenix proudly splaying its wings, taking off flight
Walking
in a
over.
vertical.
Lord Gildevarth, Lady Morelia.
And who have we here, Lord Varth?
This is my good friend from regions beyond. It's quite mysterious. The ladies love it. Leon, introduce yourself to the kind lady. This is Lady Morelia.
I do have a name from lands far beyond, but I feel the name Leon Vinmark may be easier to remember in these.
A Vinmark? She says, an eyebrow going sky high on this attractive woman in her early 30s. That is interesting. Tell me more. Lord Varth, you have the most interesting acquaintances, she says, indicating to the sylph, and now a man in traditional samurai apparel.
Well, you know, the House of Gilderfarth turns no one aside. We managed to wander quite far these days. Why that one there, we met across the border. Yes, you know, and I'll kind of nod to Fall. And this one here, well, it seems stranger tides have brought us together. We've done a bit of dungeon delving, a bit of traveling. Quite the tale. I was going to say, nothing I'm sure that you're not accustomed to, given the circles you travel, Lady Morelia.
I can't say that I've grown to the ripe old age of a maid where nothing surprises me.
Lord Gildevarth, I do appreciate your company, but how could you not introduce me to this wonderful young man, this spry-looking fellow? My name is Fafal Vahish. It is truly a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Vinmark. Is it? Wonderful, wonderful to meet you. I've heard so many great things about the Vinmark family. Truly, truly. You must be wondering how I met Lord
I'll stop
Gildevarth.
him right there.
Well,
when we met, he was the captain of his own ship. I expect nothing less from you these days, especially given present company.
Captain? Morelia chimes in. Really? She says, looking back at Fafal, because she knows differently.
I'll hold my hand up. It was a modest ship, but captain nonetheless.
Fafal, he's unaware, but she obviously calls bullshit, but she's looking at you like, this guy's good. How are you gonna dig yourself out of this?
Oh, stop it, you make me blush. I would not say, Captain. I was merely helping aboard the ship. Yes, I gave a few orders here or there, but they were more suggestions than anything else, truly. We worked as a team. I was not their leader, they were not my leader. We worked together.
Are you ashamed to say you are a ship hand?
No, not at all. I was not a ship hand, definitely not. It was a democracy on this ship. No one was greater or less than the other.
Well, that just sounds wrong to the core. I mean, we were born to our station, were we not? I mean, when I first met you, you were the captain of your own, albeit small, but it was yours. For a moment.
Perhaps for a brief moment, but...
I'm afraid I'm all at sea when it comes to things nautical, she says, giving you guys an out to stop this conversation. Master Vinmark, I couldn't help noticing you having a rather long discussion with young Solomon over there.
Indeed. Quite the dry fellow.
Certainly not a fan of your current benefactor, she says, delicately gesturing towards Romeo across the room.
He did not seem it, no.
Well, you know how things are at court. You can't sort of please everyone.
That, my dear, is false. You can please everybody. I mean, look at me. Everybody loves Fafal. I mean, truly.
Oh? She says, she leans in as if she's about to kiss your cheek, and you're like, oh yeah. She puts a hand on your shoulder, takes one finger and tilts your chin, puckering up, away from her, and points your direction across the room. And sitting on a wall, a woman in a long blue captain's coat wearing a tricorn hat, absolutely glaring at you. I wouldn't say everyone.
Well, she hasn't met me yet. properly at least.
Leon and Gildervarth, following the woman's gaze. Leon, you're uncertain what Lady Marilla's intent is, but Frank, Lord Varth, can I have an intelligence check, please?
20. Boom.
You recognize the ship captain, the very same that you noticed aboard ship that overtook Fafal's vessel on the day the two of you met. And obviously she recognizes someone in your party as she glowers from the far side of the room.
I'll hold my drink up. Oh, but she did. Kind of acknowledging her presence there. I
Okay.
see.
Anyway, be that as it may, Lady Marilia says, I'm curious, what do you gentlemen think of your current benefactor? Turning towards Leon and Lord Varth.
Oh, of Romeo? Well, he has some eclectic tastes. He's sent us to and fro, I guess you could say, collecting things, this and that. I don't know if he's building a museum or what he's doing. He intends to make a name for himself.
My sources tell me that he actually is trying to reinstate this family name, and he's put himself quite a deal in debt funding your little expedition. I'm sure if he could regain noble status, the payoff would be well worth the risk. However, there's the odd rumor that, well, I'm sure he went through official channels, she says, motioning towards Solomon, standing in the corner of the room now. I'm curious, gentlemen, are you excited to see the princess?
Well, it's always exciting to see what plays out in the courts here. But yes, like everyone, I am excited to see royal blood.
Seeing that you've taken her bait, she slyly asks you, Lord Voth, you couldn't possibly be referring to the primogeniture vote in the Senate that she's been stirring up of late? Smiling abashedly at you.
Well, I mean, if one is to bring up such a thing, why not have a party? Loosen lips, as it were. Isn't that why we're all here? Get to know each other?
Indeed. She says, I count myself as a pretty good judge of character. And I don't think you gentlemen would have gone to all this trouble for Romeo's sake, just to ingratiate yourself to him, or even our good princess. Still, it would be shame if at this delicate juncture, if any sort of scandal were to come to light about our princess. Would you agree, gentlemen? Looking at you each in turn for your reactions.
Silently nodded. It would be most unfortunate for the princess if she were to have acted or behaved in a way unbecoming her station or her goals.
When cavaliers attend court, they get to invest in a particular skill called diplomacy. They are proficient in this. It is a class skill, as well as intimidate. Is bluff? Not so much.
Is bluff even a skill?
Some cavaliers would say no.
I think almost everybody who plays Pathfinder would say
I
no.
would disagree with you, Matt. There is indeed a bluff skill.
Is it? There's a bluff skill? It's not called deception?
No.
That's Star Wars.
Yeah, it is called bluff.
It is bluff. Damn it. You
Maybe
got
for not
me.
much longer.
Wah, 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 wah.
I thought he was just messing with me. He's like, oh, he's giving me something to run off of? Yes, some cavaliers may agree with you, Matt. And say,
No, I'm
there
just
is
a
no
moron, apparently.
just playing too many games at once. It's fine.
That explains why I can never find the deception skill check.
He's looking for it on his character sheet.
He's been looking for months.
Where is that button? I'm a great liar. If I could just find the
I'm
button.
like, yeah, does
on my
diplomacy
character sheet.
close enough? I mean,
Yeah.
It's all in the same
Man,
wheelhouse.
this bluff skill, I can't find it.
Do you know if you shorten dice before dishonor, the letters are DBD? Diplomacy, bluff, diplomacy.
I read it as dubda.
Yeah. Diplomacy, fail. Try a bluff. Oh, don't want to get caught. Diplomacy again. There you go. DBD.
Yay.
Dice for dishonor. All right. Gentlemen, you had made contact. A few of you are starting to get to know the Lady of the Sovereign Court herself, Lady Gurla Marilia. Or Gurlia Merla. One or the other?
Gorilla Marilla.
Thank you.
That's not her name.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Lady Marilla.
But that's what I'm calling her forever.
Yes. Pictured here behind me, gentlemen, who would you say could be cast in this role?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
with the paleness, I'm looking at sort of maybe possibly if you age Natalie Portman about 10 years, because she's got the whole Black Swan thing going on right
I
now.
can see a little Natalie Portman there. Yeah.
Like a Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, but neither have responded to our emails.
I don't know, neither of those people are part giraffe, and that person on the picture is obviously part giraffe. Her neck is like 8 feet long.
2/3
Accentuated
giraffe.
by the straight, long, dark brown hair doesn't help
No,
as
it
well.
doesn't. But seriously, her neck is bigger than her face.
Yes. Too bad they named her Gorilla.
Yeah, because
Giraffia
should
Marilla.
have been Giraffia.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan Paizo. I'm not making fun of you or your team or your work.
I am.
We are.
Actually, recently was watching Skid Meier on his Twitch channel on Wednesday night, which I never get off work, and in pops Dan. I will not use his last name because I refuse to drop names. It's just a random story. It has nothing to do with one of the big guys at
Just
Paizo.
some dude named Dan.
There's some dude named Dan, very friendly. I was talking to him about the podcast. He said he'd check it out.
Sounds like a podcast-savvy individual.
But as I worry-warded into my text messaging whispering, because you can do that, it literally says whisper in Twitch, he assured me that the cream of the podcast will rise to the top. So, gentlemen.
Which, by the way, I believe...
all three of them.
I believe
all three of them.
You deserve some kudos with the Dice Before Dishonor run that you've done. Your editing skills have really stepped up in this podcast for keeping the banter snappy, for sure.
I've learned some tricks.
It flows very well.
Thank you.
Because we meander.
Oh, yeah.
Like a pack of chickens. Mixed in with a pack of kittens.
Chicken kittens.
I appreciate it. Gentlemen, we digress. Lady Marilia was pointedly, suggestively, hopefully, willingly, and if you guys just don't get the hint, she'll, stoop to quaint pointedly looking over at Solomon and, request those papers. To set the scene, currently in this moment, Lady Marilia is talking with Samish Gildervarth, Fafal. Leon has recently made his way over. Sir Winston is still hugging a back wall, backing up Captain Safari. Safrini? Oh, God.
Safari works for me, man. I like that name. That's good. Captain Safari. That's a superhero. I would watch that cartoon.
I imagine drums in the intro music.
No. It's Captain Safari. Or Safari. Captain
Safari.
It's phonetics, man.
Coming is fun. You remember the tree?
Again, back to the drums.
I left that in. Ladies and gentlemen, not the entire cast are so egotistical or even have the time to listen back to our podcast after I post it, add music, edit it, and polish it up. Some do to help me with the editing process, but most just don't have time because they're like, oh, we lived that, Jeff. We just played it. Why would I want to listen to it? Well, they get to listen to what gets left in and what they assume, got cut out, trusting that I would just edit their shenanigans. But anyway.
We trust Jeff. We trust you.
$20 is $20.
See, now that was a joke I left out, so you guys gotta be careful some of the references. I actually cut that out of the last one, so Frankie, get another go at that joke.
Yeah, no, good call.
Okay.
Air to the side of caution.
Bartholomew, recently coming out of his flashback. Gentlemen, what do you do?
I think Gildvarsh is playing with his sword too much.
Winston's gathering drinks to bring out to his associates after him and Captain Safari emptied the pitcher. So I'm back to the kitchen. Hopefully hit on a couple halflings, refill, and then...
So
I'll get back to that. Let's say Winston is out of the court for a little bit.
Sounds good.
What was the name of the guard I was talking with?
Inca.
And she was being a little kind of force-spoken for a guard. Okay.
Inca Heldotor. apologized after threatening or implying that was, you were stepping across the line for insulting a soldier on duty, and you were right back at her with assaulting a noble is worse. And backed up with intimidate check, and she seemed to fold and start twitching like a deck of cards.
Excellent.
Nothing suspicious here, and then you moved on and drifted off into your cutscene.
Okay. Drifting.
Then we played a bit more with Marilia, and the guys actually talking about the letter, which brings us to...
I do have some future business with Solomon. I can certainly ask about these papers for you. May I ask what they pertain to?
I mean, you could just play her as not wanting to disclose the contents at this moment.
Well, what I think it is you remember I talked about Lion's Library, an earlier Pathfinder Society venture? It's all about this letter. Let's just say we all have our delicate reputations to protect, gentlemen. And these letters would expose some of the things that the Sovereign Court has to do to protect Taldor's interests and its nobility, she says, glancing around at you, implying your interests, obviously, being Taldorian and nobles. It's in your best interest. Now, are you going to do it, or aren't you?
Well, I must further converse with my companions, but I suppose we can certainly ask about about this letter for you.
Well, this seems like something that could definitely benefit all of us. If you don't mind me tagging along and helping out, I do have a way with people. And I give Leon a nice wink.
Leon looks slightly concerned, but nevertheless I have a job to do at the moment.
You could turn to Samish and go, "Who's this guy?" Because he barely introduced him. Like,
yeah, that's
who's
fair.
This? Who are you
Actually,
again?
Fafal had to introduce himself.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
I think he was saying that he did.
Okay.
Solid. Let's roll with this, guys.
Yeah.
Keep the gold coming.
You know, I think that the problem is, Jeff, is that the majestic beards that we have on camera, we can't capture with the microphone.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I've got something for you guys. Taldor at a glance here. Okay? No, hang on.
I apologize ahead of time, guys. I'm sorry.
No. Scroll down. Scroll down. This is relevant before we play tonight. Scroll down. Taldor at a glance, right? Royalty Society. The ranks and privileges, and actually lists them.
Oh, that's fancy.
Right? Now we have knights, we're soon to be, and we call Samish a lord.
Oh, man, I want to be a tribune. That's a sweet title.
Now, come down here. There's the senator
The
class.
unbearded.
And then
The
unbearded, which is basically their way of saying plebes, because, the nobility always have this nicely oiled beard.
Oh, that's friggin' great.
I have business with Solomon in the present future. I just need to confer with my compatriots. I will ask about these letters as well.
Excellent. So, Lady Marilla actually moves off to do some schmoozing and to distance herself from you guys if you get caught.
On that note, Lord Gilderoth,
Yes.
there is a man whom has evidence that would either help or hinder our Romeo Alcasti's agenda. We should probably procure said pieces, as well as apparently this evidence, or this letter for Lady Marilla. Unfortunately, I do not have the funds on me at the moment to be able to procure said documents. I'm hoping that yourself, Bartholomew, and perhaps Winston would be able to assist me.
Well, point the unbearded one out and let's have a look at him.
Oh,
he is not unbearded.
Oh my good men,
Yeah,
you don't
that's
need
an
funds
insult.
to procure stuff like that. When you have me, Fafal, around, all I need you to do is talk to him for a little bit. Keep his eyes away from his pockets.
Now, Fafal, I know you're trying to rapidly climb the food chain here, and earlier I stated that you are well-dressed and not exactly acting like you're in attendance. However, do you have a beard?
No, I do not. Fafal is...
Can I have a knowledge
Sure.
local check from you, sir? and a knowledge nobility check.
Let's do local. That is slightly higher.
Or how about perception, where he looks around and realizes he's the only one without a beard.
Dun dun dun.
But the knowledge checks are to tell his little brain
Knowledge
why.
check, or knowledge local of 19.
Even the women here have beards. It's very
Is this
impressive.
a dwarf community?
What the heck? I don't know.
I got a 19.
What'd you get? There is a term in society which separates the wheat from the chaff, the cream rising to the top, the unbearded, as the general populace or plebes are called, because the massive underclass make up 99% of Taldor's population. Merchants, craftsmen, day laborers, dock workers, vagabond soldiers, sailors, and so on. Nobles and nobles alone and royalty are allowed to grow beards, and it is an offense to the government if you grow one and are not sort of high social standing. Now, our very own Romeo Cassi is recently growing his in, and he's got a lovely ginger beard, as it were, but he is well on the road. It is known that his family was once nobility and is, shall we say, he's trying to reinstate that, having a famous general for a great relative in the past showing up, very presumptuous of him, with a beard. But if he can pull this off, he would unlikely to be penalized for it. However, if things go south and he gets rejected, it would probably be very polite in society that he would shave the very next day. Hence the chance of the term unbearded, such as you are.
Fascinating.
Let's go around the table. Who's sporting a beard? I know Samish is.
Yep.
Leon?
It's very short, though.
Yeah, but even the proverbial chin strap is a sign of significant society standing.
Yes, he has a visible scruff. He looks like he's cut it very short, but it's there.
Yes. Moving away from the racial stereotype of the Tianxia having the Fu Manchu
Plus, I think
or
you're
the
tied
goatee.
to the Vinmark family, right? So you're kind of nobility-ish.
I am.
Well, Vinmark are an Ulfin family that only recently been elevated. And although it's not cool to be unbearded, every year someone gains, or at least when the great celebration that we've been hinting at comes around, someone gets elevated in status.
I mean, we've been nobles for 19 years, though, so there's lots of bearded people.
All my friends are bearded. Is that what you're saying?
All of the extended family is, yeah.
Aunt so-and-so and lady so-and-so, all beards across the table.
I mean, it helps when you're Ulfin.
He knows he's adopted, right? No, has anyone told Leon he's adopted?
I definitely know I'm adopted.
Okay. Look at me here, dude.
That was definitely making fun of the Ulfin people, not...
Okay. Speaking of Ulfin people, it does not escape your notice that after being, shall we say, jilted by Sir Bartholomew, Inca is sort of watching you, Leon.
Me.
Being a fellow Vinmark, or at least working with the Ulfin Guard, she probably recognizes you and is watching you closely. And considering since she is the, security of the room, and you guys are about to, I don't know, possibly pull off a caper, this is not good.
I don't know. Sorry, back to that point. Lord Gildevarth, first of all, why is the unbearded still speaking with us? Do you know him? And second of all, is he implying what I think he's implying?
Gilderbarth will clear his throat a moment. Pay no attention to the cut of his beard. I assure you, he's a solid man.
Fair enough.
There was a bit of a fire, or I assume. But no, he's shown himself to be stand-up in our travels here. I vouch for him.
So you vouch for him. All right. For now on, gentlemen, since he is vouching for Fafal, he will be known as Samish's man. You don't have to be nice to him, but you can politely refer to Fafal as, your man.
Yes, and
his second.
And as
the guy that stands behind him.
That's a shitty title, I'm not going to lie.
Keeps him warm by the fire by spooning
right.
at night.
He has very
it's all
soft
part
hands.
of the job description.
Let's just leave it at that.
Sorry. Thank you, Frank. It was great. The cadence of how I just magically cut you off every time. I'm going to leave that in. That was good, though.
And as far as, him talking about procuring any documents, I'm sure he'll come about things, honorably.
Oh, of course. I would never do anything, how would you put it, below the belt, so to speak. No, of course. It would be upstanding and whatnot. I have plenty of funds to my name. I can read men and women, I don't discriminate, very well. And he seems one to try to procure more money than some items would be deemed. And I just don't want my good friend Gildervarth and his compatriots being ripped off. Truly would be a tragedy.
Are you implying that Solomon Menander is dishonorable and would attempt to rip us off?
I see what he's saying. I mean, there's not much honor in waiving documents of credibility for hire or for sale.
Well, the man isn't waiving said documents for hire.
I mean, I wouldn't have paid him for information about Alcasti.
Well, if he's got papers that he'd, like to extort money from us, as Leon so casually puts it, let's go have a talk with the man and see what he's got. And I'll move towards Solomon.
As Gildervarth's second, I shall follow right behind you. I'll slip up behind Gildervarth, quiet like, and be like, we seem to have attracted some eyes. The wonderful blonde guard over there seems to have eyes for Leon. And, there's a lot of people around for what we might be discussing. Perhaps we should take this to a more secluded place. But, of course, this is all on your judgment, sir. I'm just giving my humble opinion as someone who's a man of the people.
So I'll clap him on the shoulder and go, very astute of you. We wouldn't want anything untoward to happen. So let's see if old Solomon here is keen to step aside or step into the hallways there and maybe conduct a bit of business. Leon, I believe you know him.
And leading the way for a proper introduction. Ah, Master Menander. If we may have another word. My compatriots and I would like to speak with you about procuring those documents you mentioned you were in your possession earlier. Having evidence of that discussion would be helpful.
Okay. He looks startled that you're talking about this openly with him in front of, witnesses. What he quietly said and took your money earlier when no one was watching is one thing. For you to, roll up on him with two other dudes still in the middle of the courtroom and go, hey! So, let's do business now.
Okay, noticing the change of expression on his face and his glances towards my compatriots, these are my associates, Lord Gildervarth and Fafal, both of whom I can vouch for.
He turns to you and addresses you directly. Lord Varth, with a slight nod and, accepting your position.
And then what do I know about Solomon?
Knowledge local.
Okay. 6.
15.
Fafal. Solomon Meander dresses like a bureaucrat. They love to bitch water cooler style with anyone about bureaucracy and how bad it is.
Okay. I can work with that.
All right. So,
yeah, I'll lean in and in Kelishite whisper to him that he's a bureaucrat and likes bitching about how hard it is and all this jazz. So
I'll nod my head sagely. Well said. Well said. Solomon, now let's step aside here. If we're going to discuss business, this is certainly not the place. And I'll point to the...
He nervously looks and a quick scathing glance at Leon. I don't understand, my lord. What business are you talking about? Starts looking for an escape route. Starts hooking two thumbs under his shacho strap.
Kind of making sure they're pulled up nice and tight.
Like he's ready to bolt.
Well, if you have information on a house or on a person, for example, we certainly wouldn't want to discuss that here, would we? I'm
sorry, Lord Varth. I don't think I know what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure... Please, let's not play the fool. Leon here says that he gave you a bit of coin for something, and you suggested you may have things of a bit more value.
Diplomacy?
Yes. Yes. Hiya! 28.
Dude, you diplomed the crap out of that.
Okay, he just nods and looks around and kind of does the head shake towards the hall that's, nearby. But not so far away that, the guards can't hear him cry out.
No, just around the corner. This is business for more bearded folk. So I'll move aside right there and I'll say, as we pull a little bit further out of kind of the main eye there, and say, now, what by chance do you have that you deem so valuable? Let's have at least a little look.
And while he's doing that, I'm going to look down the hallway and over in this study.
So
to look
Fafal
for
is
other people.
taking a step away just to make sure that no one's in earshot. Okay.
And then I'll just kind of remind him, if these papers are of interest, I assure you the favor of a house could be worth much more than the coin you gained today. So let's see what it's really worth, shall we?
Is that a bluff?
That's a diplomacy check promising future favor.
Okay. Well, I believe you can only use diplomacy once in a 24-hour period, unless you have some special feats or traits, sir.
I think you can use it more than once as long as you don't fail.
Well, you also have that double header, don't you? You have the one where it moves as 2 steps instead of 1.
Yeah.
So he started as indifferent and almost became unfriendly if you had failed that and would have bolted. And succeeding in getting him to talk to you, he's become, friendly and possibly somewhat helpful.
Yes.
And backing it up with your last statement about the favor of a house, he's saying, just so we're clear here, you're saying that your associate, which he turns to Leon, whom I provided some information on your benefactor, has piqued your interest, my lord?
It has indeed. If we're working with someone and they've done things that, say, the crown would disapprove of, we certainly wouldn't want to besmirch the line. So it protects me. That which protects me protects you. Good sir.
Well, if...
Not only does it protect the House of Gildervath, knowing it as well helps House Vinmark. For a member of House Vinmark to be working for a man that is dishonorable, while still under the name Vinmark.
Now he seems confused.
Dishonor the name Vinmark.
No, I just seemed to be struggling there, so I was just like, the aid wasn't necessary. I think Frank's got him wrapped up.
Oh, I had assumed he knew who I was.
No, I know, but you had this great lean-in role play, and I'm like, oh, he's going to say aid another, and then you just kind of spoke in a sort of a different reasoning than a bureaucrat is used to. Let's put it that way, Anyway,
I wasn't trying to aid so much as
my lord.
That was totally an aid another 30.
Okay. Yeah. He turns back to Samish and he says, my lord, if you were to speak freely here, your word would be as good as gold, and witnesses would come forth to testify in Romeo's unsavory practices of how he funded your expedition, I assure you. And then he gives this sort of like sleepy, sickly-eyed wink at you.
Well, then produce these documents and let's have the truth be known.
Don't have documents, I have witnesses. And I got the idea of, like, in court, like, it's who stands up and says, this man is doing this.
Okay.
Varth is a lord. If he says it, right, the sort of follow-up is assumed. It's not like, prove it now. You know what I mean? And if he doesn't prove it within a day or backs his word later, then yes, the house falls apart and so-and-so becomes a scandal. But there is that sort of grace period where our guy Varth has enough credibility to stand up in court and go, Romeo, this, and then Solomon would step up and go, it's true, there are witnesses, go to this pub, blah, 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 blah. And, if the princess wants to, would like nod and guards and scurry and bring these people, and you know what I mean? But the damage is done. This is a society of shame, not a society of guilt.
Okay.
Yep.
If, basically by telling you, Lord Varth, he'll prop you up.
Okay.
If you want to make an accusation live in court, he will back you, and witnesses will come out of the woodwork because he knows people, and there's minor things about it, but it's not like he's carrying the papers on him.
So I'll step in close to Solomon and say, well, what would I accuse him of?
He's going to do as soon as he sees, Solomon's attention on...
Okay.
Because so far he said that he's dirty, but he hasn't implied what he's done.
Yeah. Okay, so he lowers his voice and leans in and starts describing money lending, the gold that he, had funded. Romeo, he reveals to you, has a very long history of taking bribes, He also notes to you that he funded your quest with ill-gotten gold, as it were.
Okay.
And since he has such a long history of it,
To kind of ruin his ambitions.
it wouldn't be hard to sort of tip the scale at this point, especially since he's making a power play.
While Solomon is explaining all this and very focused on Gildervarth and whatnot, Fafal, after checking this last room, is going to... his hand is going to wander while his eyes are almost elsewhere, and start rifling through Solomon's pockets, looking for the papers that Lady Marilia was asking for.
Okay.
So, sleight of hand check coming out.